We have just been graced with our newest set of Incarnon weapons, and we're going to cover them really quickly in this video, despite the fact that one of them is currently bugged, mainly because I want you guys to be able to pick which Incarnon weapons you go for within your first week of the rotation. So we're going to cover all of these weapons individually, talk about some quick builds as well as the evolutions, how good I think each one of them is individually. Anyway, let's get straight into the first weapon. The Cestra Prime Incarnon is without a doubt the most broken in the game right now. The way it works is it has ricocheting bullets, but unfortunately this is bugged and is doing way too much damage. A dev has confirmed this will be getting fixed soon. I'm really hoping that this thing still kicks ass after they fix it, and I feel like it will. Because remember, the ricocheting bullets is shared by that of the dual toxicist, which is also probably the best secondary Incarnon in the game right now. I have no doubt this will probably still be the best Incarnon weapon of this rotation. This thing has turned into an absolute monster right now. There's really solid evolutions across the board. Out of its first two evolutions, I personally go for the crit chance based one. This will get rid of all of your crit on your body shots, but on your headshots you'll get a massive 150% bonus to your critical chance, and this synergizes really well with your third evolution. As for the second evolution, you can go with the negative weapon recoil, and then combine this with a weapon recoil mod in your Exodus. That way this thing isn't going to move whatsoever. But personally I'm currently going with plus 50% reload speed, but you can also go with a higher magazine. And the last three evolutions are mostly bog standard, one focusing on crit, one giving you crit and status, but I think the best one here is the one that gives you increased status chance based on how much crit you have. And of course, if we're going with the first evolution with our crit bonus of 150%, it's going to scale off of that and give us a massive status bonus. So it just makes sense to combine these two. So yeah, it is unfortunate that this thing isn't going to stay as powerful as it currently is, because it's basically the best gun in the game at the moment, dropping massive 26 million crit damage to the head and stuff. I have no idea what's causing this, but this is a great weapon regardless, and if I could recommend getting this right now within your first week rotation, even if it gets the fix and it becomes quite a bit worse, I still think it's going to be good enough to be ranked number 1 as the best. So yeah, screw it, I recommend it. The next weapon we're going to cover is the Dera Vandal specifically. You could use this on the regular Dera as well, but its Incarnon is mostly going to be useful on its Vandal version because it's just better. It's a fully automatic assault rifle, and the Incarnon gives it an alt fire that turns it into a railgun that does magnetic damage. At first I was a bit underwhelmed by this, but then I realised that I was really just using the wrong evolutions. They definitely make a difference here. It has a very slow fire rate, and that's kind of a gripe of mine. I did try this on Gorse for a little bit and it felt decent, but at the same time that slow fire rate and chugging it along like a big sniper rifle is kind of growing on me, and I'm already a big fan of the Dera as a weapon anyway, because it's a very, smooth sounding assault rifle. It's got no recoil, fast fire rate. This is probably the most fun Incarnon out of the bunch in my opinion. You can choose between a damage and ammo efficiency focused evolution and then a more fire rate and damage focused evolution for your first. I personally prefer the fire rate because, as I just said, it shoots quite slowly. Then you can choose between a reloading whilst holstered, a magazine bonus, and a projectile speed bonus. Pretty much any of these are solid. I personally go with the magazine. And then finally, the last evolution is quite important. Originally I was going with the increased critical chance based off of your status, and this thing does have very good status chance, but the bonus critical chance and specifically the critical damage from death trap trigger is way more effective in my opinion. Just from testing, it just hits way harder, and I just don't think this is the kind of weapon you go for a status bonus on, so I'd ignore that one. You definitely want to go with the crit damage for this. Overall, this is probably my favourite of the bunch right now, just because it's far more unique and it's a nice switch up from the original version of the weapon. Is it the best? No. I think this may be the weakest of the bunch purely based on its DPS. That is debatable when we get into the Cestra, but it is by no means a bad weapon or a bad Incarnon weapon. I think all of these are actually pretty good. Next up, we're going to talk about the Oina. The Oina's Incarnon kind of doubles as not only some solid DPS for itself, but also has some evolutions that make it a utility weapon. When you kill an enemy, it will give you these floating daggers around you that can proc cold and completely freeze enemies upon hit, and they also spread melee influence as well. These aren't going to nuke anything, but being able to freeze enemies for max cold status is very nice, and it's just a bonus for condition overload. Overall, a really solid feature. And more importantly, these dual daggers just absolutely tear through enemies. They've got so much damage available now. For the first evolution, I like going for the bonus status damage variation, but gaining additional combo on targets affected by slash is also very valid. For the second evolution, I highly recommend either going with the bonus range or the bonus speed. Having 30+% bonus movement speed is bonkers. I think it's one of the highest values you've got on one of the Incarnon weapons right now. And then you can also pause your combo timer when the weapon is holstered. This is important because the damage that your floating daggers do also scales off of your combo multiplier, so you can red crit with them, but once again they're not really going to be nuking much. So all three of these in my opinion are kind of above average for the third evolution. And then finally the last evolution, I think all of these are pretty solid. You can gain bonus crit chance, bonus crit and status and status duration. I think all of these are perfectly fine. Best one might be Survivor's Edge. This weapon overall has really solid crit and status, so you can go with whatever here. Oina Prime right now, I'm so glad they actually dropped the Prime, and I think it was kind of in preparation for this. Obviously, melee influence on many melee weapons is very strong, but here it's even better because of that bonus feature of the flowing daggers. I don't think they're the best melee weapon ever, but they are definitely up there and 100% worth using. I'd say if you got the Oina Prime recently, then I'd recommend getting this within your first week of your rotation. Next up, we're going to talk about the Cestra Incarnon. This is probably either on par with the Dera, but it's still a fantastic weapon, and it's probably the most satisfying as well. Incarnon evolution allows you to increase your critical chance the longer you shoot the gun consecutively. So in other words, if you hold down the trigger and don't let go, your crit chance is going to continuously increase until the end of your magazine. And this goes way into the red crits. Obviously the more you shoot, the more damage you're going to be dealing. Both of the first evolutions are very good and also a bit situational. One of them gives bonus multi-shot with armor over 450 and bonus damage. So if you're rocking high armor Warframes, this is the one you probably should go for. For me, I prefer the one that gives bonus damage and bonus critical damage upon breaking shield or overguard. This bonus critical damage can also be combined with a critical damage bonus from the 4th evolution, which allows you to increase the base critical damage to 2 times, making this thing an absolute monster versus overguard. And whilst we're at the 4th evolution, we may as well go over the others. The increased base status chance by 30% of the current critical chance is insane with this weapon's Incarnon form, because obviously you're increasing in critical chance, which means your status chance is going up the longer you shoot. Definitely want to go with this one. But the other option, if you don't feel like holding down the weapon as long, would be increase your base critical chance by 18. And then for your 3rd evolution, you should probably go with the one that reduces recoil, so you can be an absolute laser beam, but you can have either bonus reload speed or bonus projectile speed. Another one of the better secondaries in the game right now. Absolutely love how all these Incarnons are kind of breathing new life into a lot of older weapons. I've always thought the Cestra was horrible, because it has been. Out of the new Incarnons, this is probably the 1st or 2nd weakest, but it doesn't mean it's bad, and if this looks satisfying, definitely go for it. And finally we have the Cerberus Incarnon. I'd probably rank this just behind the Sicarus right now. It turns its alt fire in Incarnon form into a 4-round burst that does blast damage. So picture the Cerberus but with explosions going off. It's an AoE burst machine gun. I don't think this does the most damage of any Incarnon, but it's definitely up there, and the fact it does large amounts of AoE makes it really efficient. Its first 2 evolutions are both excellent. You can either opt for base damage or multi-shot. Me, I prefer the multi-shot. You can reduce its recoil, increase its reload speed, or give it bonus magazine. Me personally, I prefer the recoil option. And then you can focus on higher status chance, high damage when you're accurate and landing full bursts, or bonus status and crit, which is my personal favourite. The Cerberus is super simple. It still feels like the Cerberus, except with that added flair of being more of an AoE weapon now. I think this is best used when you have a good fire mod on it, being able to spam it because it has a massive magazine in its Incarnon form. Like I said, I still think the Sicarus is going to be on top, but after the Sicarus I'd rank the Cerberus, then the Oina, and then it's a toss up between the Cestra and the Dera. Maybe I'm being a bit biased here, but both of them seem very similar in terms of overall power. I think I might put the Dera just in front of the Cestra though. Long story short, all of these Incarnons kick ass, and it's one of the more consistent weeks. Like there's some Incarnons out there and some certain weekly rotations that I would overall just never probably use, and they're all viable because at the end of the day, Incarnon weapons are going to be dealing more damage than most weapons in the game. I just love this mechanic because it makes some of the old and shitty weapons actually usable. I will still say go for the Sicarus because I'm pretty sure this thing is going to be a menace even though it's bugged and it's going to get fixed soon. It does so much damage right now that even if you cut its damage in half, it would still be at the top. So yeah, I'm not worried. And then for your second pick of your first week, if you are also looking for, you know, the top 2 best. If you're looking for another weapon that's also top tier, then it's going to be the Cerberus, but if you want to go for a melee option, then the Oina is the best. And if you want to have the most fun, I recommend going for the Dera and the Cestra. Let me know what you guys think of the new rotation of Incarnon weapons, which one's your favourite right now. Be sure to check out my 2 previous videos on this Warframe update. We've covered Koumei and went to level cap in a survival with her, and we also went in depth over Caliban's new rework as well. I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.